Good morning. Thanks for joining me today. Oh, so there's a story about, I believe it was the sixth patriarch that came walking past a couple of monks that were standing in front of a flagpole. And they were arguing. One was saying, it's the wind that's moving. And the other one was saying, it's the flag moving. Sixth patriarch heard this and so commented, it's your minds that is moving. So what's the point of this? Who is correct? Was the sixth patriarch's mind also moving? There's a common misperception about meditation that it's about stilling the mind. Is there such a thing, actually? The mind naturally quiets down in the process of sitting. That's true. But something will always pop up. Another way of saying it is it neither is nor isn't. Sometimes I refer to the middle way like looking at our dualistic views of things like a seesaw that we're constantly trying to balance on. Sometimes we're on the negative side, sometimes we're on the positive side, or this is right, that is wrong, up and down, back and forth. And I think of the middle way kind of like the pendulum that the seesaw's sitting on. The middle way is neither up or down. Yet without the pendulum, there is no up and down. So the middle way to me refers to just this as it is without our judgment, our attachment, our idea. Another way of saying it might be when you're sitting, sometimes thoughts, they just keep coming, 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 coming. And I used to refer to that as getting on the train of thoughts and riding the train, and then recognizing that you're on the train and getting off the train. But the train continues. So, what does it mean getting off the train? Does it mean trying to still your mind? I don't think so. My teacher in Germantown, Maryland, at the what used to be called the American Zen College, actually, Gosunshin used to say that there's nothing wrong with desires; it's the attachment to it. I used to think about that a lot. What does that mean? There's a certain amount of freedom in that because it's not about controlling your life in such a way that, oh, I won't have that desire, or I can't think about sex, or making money, or whatever it is, right? It's the attachment to the Dhamma Sutra. And in the Dhamma Sutra, it says that the bodhisattva isn't attached to the idea of a being, a body, a place, or a thing. It's it's not that those things aren't part of the experience. Thinking, thoughts are part of the experience. You can't negate it, but you don't have to be attached to it as though that's who you are. So being attached to it as that's who you are, that's where suffering comes in because it's identification. Now, don't get me wrong, the middle way does not say Just like it doesn't say you want to still the mind, it also doesn't say it doesn't matter what you do, think, or say. Absolutely matters. Because again, that pendulum that everything is moving on is in total harmony with the moving. It's recognizing this constant moving and playing its part, which is a balance. So, this balance is totally committed to being present to what's actually happening. Otherwise, it wouldn't be there. So, being totally committed means taking total responsibility for your life just as it is. Now, being right or wrong about something, yeah, you could be right or you could be wrong about something. It can be relative depending on what it is. But not being attached to it means being able to see it for what it is and then making a decision about it one way or another based on a more a place that you could call wisdom or intuition rather than judgment. So a judgment isn't clear. It's based on duality. It's a judgment about how something appears. That's good, that's bad. Sometimes things that look bad to you are actually good for you. And sometimes the other way around, something you think is good for you is bad for you. So, how to know the difference? This comes back to the middle way, the wisdom mind, an open experience of things just as they are, or don't know, or beginner's mind, any sort of these terms that you want to use. But it's always bringing you back to don't assume you know. Don't assume that things are solid, because actually nothing is solid or permanent or immutable. So that's why stopping, let's suppose you're going down the path of anger, or you know that the outcome of the direction you're going is going to be painful, either for you or for someone. So if you just stop and let it be for a moment, well, what happens? It's the open hand of thought. It's allowing something more to be there than what you think or what you've judged it to be. So now all of a sudden, there's a lot more opportunity to make an appropriate decision about what's next for you. If you need to make a decision, maybe no decision is the right decision. It just depends. So, getting to know ourselves, this whole practice that we do, ultimately is about having a better life, actually. Not by pursuing something, not by trying to gain something because you're lacking, but recognizing that you already have what you need to move on to the next step in your life, whatever that is. And our practice keeps bringing us back to letting go of this topsy-turvy view of things and just being in the middle and stopping if we have to, or acting if we have to, but knowing from the place of wisdom rather than judgment. So maybe the flag's waving, maybe the wind's waving. You know, maybe I'm just trying to keep cool. There's so much going on in our lives that is really relevant, yet we get distracted by things that don't really matter. And that's interesting because I think we like being distracted because there are things we don't want to deal with or whatever it is, right? Also, it's just a habit. It's habit energy. That's the other thing about the middle way. It's letting go of habit energy. The habit energy might be having that bowl of ice cream every night. Nothing wrong with ice cream. I love ice cream. But when I have it every night, the pounds come on and I know it. Not just the pounds, but probably the cholesterol and who knows what else, right? So it's just, why are we eating that bowl of ice cream? What's in it for us? What's there? What's really there? So taking a moment to stop and just look at it, maybe that's all it takes. Maybe then you can say, nah, I think I'll skip it tonight, rather than just falling into the habit and continuing the habit. Now, even meditation can be a habit. And that's when I call it Zen sickness, because now you're doing it out of a habit rather than discovering who you really, what really is going on. What is this right now? Or it could even be an addiction to a kind of feeling that you're getting out of it. You're getting this good feeling, this away from it feeling. Again, that's not it. It's like that whole idea of stilling the mind. I'm meditating to still my mind. Seems to me you're just running away from your mind by attempting to still it. Where not being attached to what comes up and seeing it for what it is. Wow. That's like a roadmap to uh, wisdom, to recognizing, oh, things I can change or not, rather than living with blinders on. So as we improve our own lives individually, the whole planet benefits. We all benefit. When you're doing better, I'm doing better. So please do better. I want to do better too. Any thoughts about what I was just talking about? Questions?
So your example is the funniest thing, right? Will you choose ice cream?
Uh huh.
Yeah, yeah, it's not the best. You eat too much ice cream, and we know. I just happened to read earlier this week an article about the ice cream paradox.
Okay.
Harvard Medical School. For some reason, it turns out that people who take a dollop of ice cream regularly have much better health outcomes. So I know what you were saying, and I get the point, but it was funny. It was some weird thing that happened that they discovered, and they don't know what's going on. But
Yeah.
because it creates all sorts of problems because this isn't the narrative that everybody's been pushing.
Yes. So I love coffee. And over the years, there's been all these statistics that have come out. Coffee's good for you. Coffee's bad for you. Coffee's good for you. Coffee's bad for you. The flag is moving. No, the wind is moving back and forth, back and forth. But knowing what's right for you in any given moment, that's the trick. And that dollop of ice cream, that could be perfect or not. Thanks for that. Full circle. Go ahead. When you get very calm, just watching the breath, very calm, watching the breath.
always amazed how when things just pop up. And because you're mentioning ice cream, I was just sitting there this morning for a little calm period in the meditation. All of a sudden, there was this green salad. It came from nowhere, and there it was, right in front of me. I'm like, what? And then, then I went back to the breath, but these things just arise. They just come in, and where do they come?
Yeah.
Not that there's an answer, they just arise.
Yeah. Well, for me, there's two different sort of sources for this kind of what we call thoughts.
Mhm.
One is a more intuitive kind of uh, helpful kind of thought that comes along, or it could be a warning, or it could be an indication of something that's to come. So I'm not saying one way or the other. I'm just saying I think it's helpful to pay attention to, is this something that I can use or not? Like sometimes I'll sit and before my Dharma talk, some sort of thought will come up about it. And it doesn't seem to be coming from me per se. It's like not a will thing. It's not my ego thing. It's just something that pops up like the salad. So I'm going to suggest you go home and have a salad. I mean, it just seems right. So I'm not saying that all thoughts are of no use, or that you shouldn't watch them, get what you can out of them, and then put them down. It's like, or an emotional attachment to something that comes up, a memory. You don't want to dwell on it, but you want to see it for what it is, because it is teaching you something about yourself on a subconscious kind of level. So I never deny or ignore anything that pops up. It pops up, but I also don't give it too much energy. I don't live my life by it, but I pay attention. So, I thoughts are an interesting thing. We have them for a reason. Sometimes it's just regurgitating old stuff, and sometimes it's something very useful. Yeah. I'm fascinated by intuition and what that is and how that's different than projecting. I think as your mind becomes clear like space, I think what can come through is a more intuitive understanding about self and life and just things generally. So I think in our meditation practice, as we're learning to pay attention and then let go of these thought trains, along with that mostly useless garbage, there's things that come through that can benefit us somehow. Something we may need to know, something we may need to understand about ourselves. So, the other day I said it's like 10,000 years of therapy. I think meditation is like that. If you're really paying attention, it's offering you things. The subconscious is bringing things up. It's like lucid dreaming. If you're a good meditator, I think you're more likely to be a lucid dreamer too. You're more likely to have that ability to sort of be in that place between consciousness and kind of see it happening. Um, and that's useful too, I think, to dive into your own unconscious and see what's there. So I know I'm going a little bit off the deep end here, but you know, I just think of it as exploring. Life is a mystery, and I'm just exploring it. Okay. All right. Well, let's call it a day. Thanks for coming and sitting with me. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yep.